If you are over 40, you were likely raised on a specific kind of financial gospel. It was the gospel of the number. You were told that if you reached a certain milestone, perhaps 2 million, 5 million, or a specific net worth relative to your expenses, you would cross a finish line. At that point, the math became static. You would withdraw 4%, the markets would provide a modest tailwind, and you would fade into a predictable sunset. We viewed retirement as a destination, a fixed point on a map. But as we sit here today, that map is being redrawn by forces most of us haven't yet acknowledged. The number is no longer a static goal. It has become a moving target, calculated in real time by algorithms that care very little about your personal legacy. We are moving away from an era of simple arithmetic and into an era of biological integration. For the modern man, your portfolio is no longer just a collection of tickers and bonds. It is becoming a mirror of your cellular health. The traditional math is obsolete because the variables have changed. We are no longer just managing market risk. We are managing the longevity tax. A silent, algorithmic levy on your future, dictated by code that knows more about your life expectancy than your family doctor does. Today, we need to look beneath the surface of our brokerage accounts and understand how software, not your broker, is beginning to determine your financial terminal value. Why is the traditional goal obsolete? Because the 4% rule was built on a version of humanity that died in the 20th century. It assumed a relatively predictable lifespan and a decoupled relationship between your health and your wealth. In that old model, your money was over here and your body was over there. But fintech platforms are now integrating longevity AI. These systems don't just look at your Sharpe ratio. They are beginning to ingest data points that would have been considered science fiction a decade ago. When your financial planning software begins to account for the accelerating curve of biotechnology, the traditional number evaporates. If you have $5 million but the algorithm predicts a high probability of a 30-year health span due to breakthroughs in senolytics or gene therapy, that $5 million is suddenly insufficient. Conversely, if the data suggests a decline, the algorithm may tighten your liquidity to ensure institutional solvency. We are entering a period where enough is a calculation performed every morning at 4 a.m. by a server cluster in Northern Virginia, adjusting your safe withdrawal rate based on the latest clinical trials and your personal biometrics. The illusion of the fixed number provided us with a sense of agency, but that agency is being quietly transferred to the architects of the code. This brings us to the most significant threat facing the established investor today: the counterparty contagion. In our quest for efficiency and scale, we have created a financial ecosystem where too big to fail is not a badge of honor, but a single point of failure. When you trust an institution, you are not just trusting their balance sheet, you are trusting every entity they are connected to. Modern finance is a web of counterparty risk where the failure of a single obscure node can trigger a cascade that threatens the private wealth of individuals thousands of miles away. For the investor who has spent 40 years meticulously building a portfolio, this is an unacceptable vulnerability. We have reached a point where the size of an institution actually increases the entropy of your assets. The more layers of management, the more regulatory complexity, and the more derivative exposure an institution has, the further you are from the actual source of your wealth. We saw this in 2008, and we saw echoes of it again in 2023. The safety of the collective becomes the trap for the individual. If your wealth requires the permission of a third party to be accessed, or if its value is contingent on the solvency of a board of directors you've never met, then you do not truly own that wealth, you are merely renting a promise. This is the contagion, the realization that institutional trust is a fragile, human construct prone to error, greed, and systemic collapse. For the sober investor, the question is no longer which institution can I trust, but rather, how can I remove the need for trust altogether? To understand where we are going, we have to look at where we started. For over a century, the gatekeepers of our financial future were the actuaries. These were men and women who worked in the shadows of large insurance companies, using massive datasets to group us into buckets of risk. If you were a non-smoker of a certain age and weight, you were put into Group A. Your premium and your payout were determined by the average of that group. It was a slow, analog, and fundamentally collective process. But the shift from actuary to algorithm has changed the nature of risk itself. We have moved from group-based risk to personalized, real-time modeling. The old actuary updated their tables once a decade. The modern algorithm updates your profile every time you log a workout or purchase a prescription. This isn't just a faster version of the old way. It is a fundamental shift in the power dynamic. In the group-based model, there was slack in the system. If you lived longer than average, the group covered you. In the algorithmic model, that slack is being removed. The software is designed to price you with surgical precision. This is death modeling through software. Insurance companies and wealth management platforms are no longer interested in how men over 50 live. They are interested in how you live. And because this modeling happens in the background of your financial apps, you rarely see the adjustments being made to the products you are offered, the rates you are quoted, or the optimized advice you receive. The actuary was a person you never met. The algorithm is a ghost in your pocket. Let's look at the core mechanism, the tension between your personal burn rate and your biological decay. In the eyes of the code, your terminal value is the point where your assets hit zero, ideally at the exact same moment your life does. To a computer, this is the ultimate optimization. If you die with $10 million, the algorithm has failed to optimize your consumption. If you live a day longer than your last dollar, the institution faces a potential liability or a bad look. Therefore, modern platforms calculate your terminal value by pitting your portfolio's performance against your projected health span. As you age, your biological decay, the natural decline in physical and cognitive function, is mapped against the increasing costs of maintaining that function. The software sees a future where your burn rate isn't just about travel and wine. It's about the escalating cost of staying alive and functional. This creates a terrifying feedback loop. If the algorithm detects that your health is failing faster than expected, it might suggest de-risking into low-yield instruments to preserve capital for end-of-life care. But if the algorithm detects you are part of the longevity elite, those of us over 40 who are obsessive about our health, it calculates a different risk. It sees a person who might live to 105, rendering a traditional portfolio unsustainable. In response, it begins to tax your potential quality of life today to ensure you don't become a statistical anomaly tomorrow. It is a cold, calculated trade-off, your current joy for institutional safety. For the man who has spent 2 decades building a career and a nest egg, this realization is sobering. You thought you were playing a game of accumulation, but the rules have changed to a game of algorithmic management. The software is no longer a tool you use to see your balance. It is a system that is actively deciding what that balance means for your future. When we talk about the longevity tax, we are talking about the hidden cost of this optimization. It is the cost of being too healthy for your savings or too sick for your plans. It is the cost of having your financial agency outsourced to a longevity AI that prioritizes the solvency of the fund over the quality of your sunset years. As we move into the second half of this discussion, we have to ask, how do we reclaim our agency? How do we prevent ourselves from being summarized by an equation? It begins with understanding that the data is not the territory. Your terminal value is not a number a computer gets to decide. We must learn to look at the code, understand the biases of the institutions that write it, and maintain a human-in-the-loop approach to our own lives. Because at the end of the day, the horizon belongs to us, not the algorithms that calculate our distance from it. We must begin by addressing the fundamental conflict of interest inherent in the modern financial stack. For decades, we operated under the assumption that our financial advisors, and later our software, were singular agents working for a singular master, us. But as fintech transitions into longevity AI, a second master has emerged: institutional solvency. When a platform's algorithm calculates your withdrawal rate, it isn't just looking at your portfolio's health. It is looking at the aggregate risk of its entire user base. We are seeing a shift from personal optimization to systemic calibration. If an algorithm predicts that a significant cohort of 45-year-old men today will live to 105, the software must adjust. But it doesn't adjust by simply finding more yield. It adjusts by tightening the belt of the user. These optimized withdrawal rates, often touted as the pinnacle of safety, are frequently designed to prevent what institutions fear most: a terminal liquidity crisis. If you spend your capital too quickly and live too long, you become a liability to the insurance products or the managed funds that guaranteed your floor. Therefore, the code is incentivized to keep you in a state of perpetual underspending. It prioritizes the survival of the fund over the quality of your sunset years. This is the first layer of the longevity tax, a forced austerity dictated by a black box that views your desire to travel, donate, or invest in your family as a statistical leak in their solvency model. Beyond the withdrawal rate lies a more insidious mechanism: the literal longevity tax. This is the hidden cost of outliving the code. In the past, if you were healthy, you were rewarded with more years. In the new algorithmic era, if your biological data harvested from your wearables, your DNA profiles, and your digital health records suggests you are a high survivability risk, you are penalized. We are seeing the emergence of dynamic pricing for financial security. Platforms are now beginning to integrate biological markers to price products like annuities or long-term care insurance in real time. If your biodata suggests a lifespan reaching into the triple digits, the cost of safety products rises exponentially. You are essentially paying a premium for your own health. This creates a paradox for the man over 40. The more you invest in your physical longevity, the better you eat, the more you train, the more you monitor your biomarkers, the more the financial system views you as a long-term drawdown liability. The tax manifests as higher fees for protected accounts and lower internal rates of return on products designed to hedge against you outliving your money. The software is no longer just a tool for growth. It is an actuarial gatekeeper, assessing your biological decay and charging you for the distance between your wealth and your pulse. How, then, does the data-driven man reclaim his agency? We cannot simply unplug. The complexity of modern markets and the reality of our biological trajectories require sophisticated tools. However, we must shift from being the subjects of the code to being the engineers of our own outcomes. This requires what we call human-in-the-loop financial stewardship. First, we must practice information hygiene. Not every piece of biological data needs to be integrated into your financial stack. While the convenience of a unified life dashboard is tempting, the price of that integration is the loss of your informational advantage. You should be the only entity that fully understands the intersection of your health and your wealth. Second, we must decouple our terminal value from institutional definitions. The software views the end of your life as a zero-sum event, the moment the capital runs out. But a human-centric approach views wealth as a tool for legacy and quality of life. This means manually overriding safe withdrawal recommendations when they conflict with your personal values or your assessment of your own health span. Third, diversify your advice stack. If you rely on a single AI-driven platform, you are subject to a single set of biases. Use the algorithms as a second opinion, not a primary directive. Reclaim the use of dumb assets, real estate, gold, or direct business equity that aren't as easily modeled or throttled by a centralized longevity algorithm. These are the assets that provide friction against the tax, allowing you to maintain a pocket of autonomy where the code cannot reach. We have reached a point where the map has become more important than the territory to the institutions that manage our futures. They have built a digital twin of your life, a simulation of your spending, your health, and your eventual decline, and they are managing that simulation to ensure their own stability. But you are not a simulation. You are not a burn rate or a terminal value on a spreadsheet. For the man over 40, the next 30 years will be the most technologically complex era in human history. But the core challenge remains ancient: how to live well within the time we have. The longevity tax is only a tax if you agree to pay it. By maintaining a sober, analytical distance from the platforms that claim to optimize us, we preserve our most valuable asset, our agency. We must look past the interface and understand the incentives of the institutions that write the code. We must maintain a human-in-the-loop approach to our own lives. Use the data, but never let it define the boundaries of your world. Because at the end of the day, the horizon belongs to us, not the algorithms that calculate our distance from it. I'm the horizon. Stay informed, stay sovereign.